Now, when I first heard that the Republican side was going to be calling a hearing on third-party influence in our courts, I was so excited because I thought, finally, we are going to address the biggest scandal in American democracy that we are currently having right now, which is the extraordinary corruption and wholesale purchase of members of the Supreme Court.
The GOP got a rude wake-up call on Tuesday afternoon when New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez took control of the Republican hearing on judicial ethics to actually talk about judicial ethics. And once AOC got going, nobody could stop her.
I also find it amusing that we just heard from the Republican side, why do we want to talk about this? Because women have lost the right to choose, because Indigenous people have lost rights, because minorities have lost rights, because working people across the country have lost rights due to this level of corruption. And if we're going to talk about third parties, let's talk about the Federalist Society, which has not only had deep ties to Justice Clarence Thomas and his wife Ginny, but has also helped choose judicial nominees for the Republican Party and directed multi-million-dollar media campaigns to confirm them.
It was at about this point that AOC's Republican friends realized they'd maybe made a mistake holding this hearing on television, because what was intended to be a publicity stunt to minimize Donald Trump's criminal charges quickly became a real conversation about how conservatives have captured the courts. And Ocasio-Cortez brought receipts, holding the floor over Republican objections while she listed off some of the Supreme Court's most extreme cases of bias. Watch this.
I believe he did not.
He did not recuse himself from this case, and in fact, he used his seat on the Supreme Court after all of this to rule in Singer's favor. And following the decision, Mr. Singer's hedge fund was ultimately paid $2.4 billion because of this ruling. Not a bad return on investment for a fishing trip there. Now, Professor Clark, would a federal judge in a lower court be required to recuse himself?
Generally, time has expired.
Ocasio-Cortez was talking about an unreported luxury fishing vacation Alito took with billionaire Paul Singer, who had multiple cases before the court. And would you believe it? Singer did more than catch some fish on that trip. He also landed himself a justice, because Singer won his cases. One thing is clear. Regardless of whether you agree with the court's decisions or not, it's pretty clear the justices are playing real fast and loose with the few ethics laws they have. And that should worry everyone, because these people serve forever. And as legal expert Joyce White Vance points out, none of these justices were planning to reveal any of their luxury vacations or secret billionaire loans until it all came spilling out from other sources. They were just fine hiding their actions from the public they serve.
And so these judges not only violated the rules, they seem to be unabashed by those violations. They've only come forward with this new reporting because they've been forced to. They don't seem committed to not sinning in the future. I think Justice Thomas, for instance, still has not formally disclosed payments that were made for his nephew's education, although they've been widely reported on. At a bare minimum, what we need from the justices is a commitment to follow the same rules that every other federal judge follows.
Yeah. That's not going to happen, Joyce, and the justices have been pretty clear about that. Samuel Alito and John Roberts have both openly declared that no one has the authority to oversee the Supreme Court, not even Congress. In the minds of the Supreme Court, they quite literally sit above the laws they interpret. Republicans want to treat this court misconduct as a historical event that happened, is over, and now can safely be ignored. But as we're now learning, conservative power brokers have been awfully busy working one justice in particular, Clarence Thomas. Here's more.
So, according to news reports, the longtime vice president of the Federalist Society, Leonard Leo, used a firm belonging to Kellyanne Conway, former advisor to President Trump, to conceal tens of thousands of dollars of secret payments to that same Ginny Thomas from his nonprofit called the Judicial Education Project. Furthermore, Leo was found to have explicitly requested that the paperwork, quote, have no mention of Ginny Thomas, of course, unquote.
Secret payments funneled through Republican back channels, names removed from documents. This is all starting to sound a little like a criminal conspiracy. But wait, there's more. As Virginia Congressman Jerry Connolly shows us, this story keeps on getting worse.
Leonard Leo is not just anybody. Every single Trump judicial nomination and subsequent appointment was in fact vetted by and recommended by that same Federalist Society, of which Mr. Leo was the longtime vice president and still is. Should we be concerned about that
Yes, I think that we
from an ethics point of view?
absolutely. I think we do need to be concerned about this ecosystem that Leonard Leo has created, including the connections to billionaires, but also these payments to Ginny Thomas.
So the guy who was basically choosing Donald Trump's judges was involved in a complex, shady, and well-hidden financial relationship with the wife of a Supreme Court justice, none of which Clarence Thomas saw fit to report on his mandatory financial filings. What do you do when the people in charge of interpreting the law are themselves breaking the law? Democrats have so far pumped the brakes on any talk of impeaching Thomas or Alito, meaning despite all these hearings and all this evidence, nothing is actually going to change. That's a sad statement on where we are as a nation, and a big reason why trust in the Supreme Court now sits at an all-time low. Democrats have an opportunity to do something about this when they retake the House next year. Voters need to hold them to it. And if that didn't melt your brain, check out this video about a MAGA moron who has a pretty big conspiracy theory about Walmart. And as always, leave a comment below so you can let me know what I should cover next.